Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me Swastika, and today we'll be discussing the setup to fail syndrome. This is something which has extensively been discussed by Harvard Business Review in one of their articles, and I just thought that this is really like an interesting topic, and this resonates well with the series that I'm trying to currently do with my channel right now, where we talk about how to work in office spaces, what things you can avoid, so on and so forth. Anyway, the point of this video is that we are going to discuss the setup to fail syndrome. We are going to discuss its causes, and we are also going to discuss some solutions. This video is useful for both the employer and the employee. So guys, have you ever felt like the system is setting you up to fail? Have you ever felt like your boss wants you to fail? It's not something which is something that just you're going through, but this can also be attributed to as a syndrome that people go through. So what exactly is a setup to fail syndrome? Is the company or the boss deliberately trying to set you up to fail? Or when you perform poorly, or when an employee performs poorly, is it the fault of the boss, or is it the fault of the manager that he can't manage you well, that he can't figure out what to do with you, or how to channelize you as a resource? Or is this something that is your fault? Generally, we always feel like it's the employee's fault that they're not able to work, but sometimes the problem can also be the system. Let's figure out how. So basically, a setup to fail syndrome in simple words means that due to some poor performance on part of the employee, maybe once or twice, the management or the boss sort of starts viewing you as an incapable employee, or as somebody who's a weak employee, and because of that, your work quality or the performance of the employee starts to decline over the period of time due to an initial negative perception, right? And this becomes worse as over a period of time the management starts to have more stringent checks on you. So the simplest way to understand this is that, for example, I am an employee and I have a boss. So initially my relationship with the boss is neutral, but after maybe after I submit one bad review or one bad assignment or one bad article, the boss starts to feel like that I am not performing as per what is expected of me, and I am a poor performer. So because of that, instead of being more a part of his inner circle, he starts to have more stringent checks on my work and on my what I'm doing in office. Basically, tries to micromanage me more, or tries to supervise me more closely, and because of that my performance falls even lower. So it further perpetuates a negative cycle where I am now performing poorly, right? So this is the and over a period of time, instead of the employee getting better, instead of me getting better, I just start to get worse, right? And this ends up with either me getting fired, me getting replaced, or me being now labeled as a weak performer. So what exactly leads to this, and how can we stop this before this happens, right? So this is what this is going to be about. So even when we are in offices or not, generally our the founders or the company, the top people in the company or the owners generally have an in circle of people that they trust, right? And they also have an out circle. So the difference between these two circles is that the people who are like a part of the in group would sort of receive more casual notices, and the boss would not want to keep a very strict check on them. But the problem with the out group becomes that that A, the communication is very formal, and B, you have to they keep a very strict check on what you are doing as an employee, right? And so so sometimes not being a part of the in group and having this kind of segregation in office can be seen as a negative as well, right? But again, it depends from people to people, and people who were initially a part of the in group but are now a part of the out group just feels negative, right? It feels negative for the employee. So anyway, let's look at the causes of the setup to fail syndrome as discussed by Harvard Business Review. The first one is bias and miscommunication, right? So sometimes, first impressions or personality clashes or past experience can, lead the employer to unfairly assume that the employee is underperforming or incapable, right? So an initial, it's important to have a good first impression, as we have all heard the saying that first impressions matter. Again, a lack of communication or feedback from the manager also contributes to the employee's struggle to improve. So clearly, it's important for us as employers and as employees to have clear communication channels where feedback, criticism, all of those things are clearly getting communicated, and clearly people are able to understand that as well. The second thing is limited managerial training or awareness. Sometimes the managers do not recognize the psychological dynamics at play or lack the skills to effectively manage different type of employees, right? So inexperienced managers are definitely a big reason for employees' poor performance, right? So always be careful who you promote higher up the management. Even if, like a lot of managers, if it is a good manager, they can actually make the employee, they can take an employee from a zero to a hero. But if it's like a bad manager, they'll take the good employee, which is hero, to zero. And it's not the employee's fault, right? It can sometimes also be that the training that the company has imparted to the manager has been insufficient, or the manager is inexperienced in how to deal with employees, right? So this is the second thing, right? Don't neglect your employees. Don't hire or put, inexperienced managers, so on and so forth. The third reason can also be organizational culture. Some work culture emphasize individual performance over team development, and employees may be neglected, right? So due to competition or organizational pressures. So of course, guys, this one is obvious. It's important for work culture to not just focus on individual growth, but it's also important for them to focus on team development and to not neglect any employees, and to also not create an unnecessary sense of like competition between people, right? Because this can lead to an unhealthy or a toxic environment, and this can create a situation where employees are constantly under the microscope and are being judged more harshly than they should, and this definitely starts that negative, setup to fail syndrome cycle where you are constantly spiraling down a negative hole, right? It's horrible. Don't do that. Please don't create toxic work cultures. It's pretty dysfunctional for the employee, for the management, for the HR, and also for the employees, right? So yeah, that's there. The fourth reason why this syndrome comes into play can also be unclear expectations or role ambiguity. A lot of the times when employees are hired into a company, for the longest period of time, we don't know what we're supposed to be doing in the company, because the job role has not been clearly assigned, and it's not even after 3-4 months that you're being told that this is what you have to do. And honestly, as an employee, this is a horrid experience. Like, the company needs to be very clear on what their expectations from the employees are in terms of their job role, and if these expectations are not clearly put out, then this can be a problem. This can be a big problem because you are setting up the employees to fail, right? And as somebody who's on the other side of the spectrum, where you're managing a business or you're employing people, you have to have clear expectations, right? We also need to know what the manager is expecting from us. So there needs to be goal clarification on the end of the manager. And as an employee, what I can say is that definitely be someone who discusses the goals and the expectations with the management, with your supervisor, and be someone who is having those discussions extensively with about what the expectations are, what the role demands from you, so on and so forth, and how the the standards are changing, evolving with the change in technology, with the change in the curriculum, the change in syllabus, the change in the industry, right? So be very clear. As an employee, you need to be clear about what your expectations are, and this is something that you should also get clarity from the manager, right? Even if the team is not being supportive or they are not laying that out for you out there, then as an employee, it is also important for you to take up that ownership, for you to initiate that conversation. So yeah, that's the thing. The solution, or how to prevent or reverse the setup to fail syndrome, which we are discussing, is to increase. The first thing is that you need to increase awareness and training. We need to, managers and employers should be trained to understand what their own biases about people in the beginning are, right? You cannot just judge a book by its cover, right? And even if the first impression is not good, it's always important for the manager to give that employee a second chance without expecting bad work or just not good work in return, right? And this is a problem that a lot of people suffer with, because once you have a bad reputation or a bad name, or you just submitted one bad article, or did one assignment which is wrong, then the expectation from you just keeps dwindling, and this causes psychological damage to the employer, right? And the only way to overcome this is to have is to increase awareness and training, both with the managers and with the employees. And also with training, this basically means that the managers should be in a position where they're able to recognize their own biases and understand how their actions are influencing the employee's performance. This is very important, right? Leadership programs regarding emotional intelligence, active listening, and effective coaching techniques go a long way. It really helps the employees, right? The second thing is you need to have and encourage open communication. Like, there have been a lot of times as an employee that I have felt, and it's not just what I have felt, this is something that a lot of people feel, that there is not enough communication going on between the management and the people. So because of ineffective communication, there are issues. So managers also need to have regular honest conversation with employees about expectations, performance, and challenges. Managers should actively seek feedback from employees and encourage them to voice concerns or help without fear or judgment, right? So again, this is what it was. The next thing is have clear and set clear expectations, offer support and development opportunities, empower employee autonomy. Right, again, there should be constructive feedback going. Both the employee should be giving constructive feedback and the management should also be giving constructive feedback. Support should be offered where we can create an environment which is conducive of culture of which is conducive of growth and learning, and mistakes are seen as opportunities to improve. So yeah, I think this was it. I hope this was useful, both from the management and from the the end of an employee. What you can do if you think that you're caught in a spiral of being set up to fail syndrome, and how you can get out of it as well. Like, have clear communication, speak to people, have feedback. Constructive criticism goes a long way. All of those things that we discussed, right? So anyway, if you found this video useful, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share in the comments what my next video should be about, because I'm super excited to do this. Thank you.